Initiating moisture.
You know what time it is. It's moist meter time, bitches. The wettest around. If you were lost, now you're found. Welcome to Moist Meter headquarters, ladies and gentlemen. Today I saw Wonder Woman, and it was good. And it doesn't matter what I think of it, because you're going to see it regardless. We all know that. But it's my duty as a professional moisture content analytical joke in the movie industry. So let's go ahead and slap this on the moist meter. I'm clocking this at an 80%. Like I said, it's a very enjoyable movie, it's a good movie, DC's best by far, and I really don't have anything bad to say about the movie. So I know people in the comments are going to say, then why isn't 100% moisture? Why hasn't it reached the Bose-Einstein condensate for moisture on the moist meter at 100%? Well, just because I can't complain about anything doesn't mean this movie did anything extraordinary or game-changing, and it's not going to be a movie that I'm going to remember every scene 10 years from now. It's not going to be a movie I'm going to show my kids.
Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the Moist Meter. Jason Momoa is a big man, but I'm about to be an even bigger man when I admit I was wrong about this movie. This is a movie that I took a fat, steamy shit on well before it ever came out, based on Aquaman being a pretty boring character, pretty shitty in the Justice League movie, and the promotional posters they released for this movie looked like middle school Photoshop. So, needless to say, I thought it was going to be a big old pile of shit, and it wasn't. Not at all. This is the second best DC Universe movie behind Wonder Woman. There's a lot to like, but there's a lot of stinky shit about it as well, so let's just get into it. I'll start talking about the weakest part of this movie, in my opinion. It's the dialogue between characters. It's really unnatural and robotic and downright cheesy, and the jokes. Oh my fucking lord, the humor in this movie is abhorrent and just painful at times. All of the jokes feel super forced, as if the movie was already wrapped up, but one of the higher-ups at the top of the food chain looked at the script and said, you know, there's no comedy in this movie. This is a superhero movie. Most forced shit in the world. It's awful. What a zinger. If they wanted some shitty jokes thrown in for no reason, they should have just had me write it for them. More like Bored Atlantis, am I right? But that's the worst part about this movie. Everything else is pretty damn good. It has a really fun plot and a really fun set of settings. It's hard to put that into the words properly, but this movie is like a true comic booky adventure movie. It really commits to being super comic booky. You'll have some shit taking place at the bottom of the ocean with these piranha face shits that look like they're straight out of Pirates of the Caribbean with the Davy Jones crew. Then they'll be all of a sudden teleported to a prehistoric landscape with dinosaurs roaming around. It's fucking fun to watch the setting keep changing, and it's all really beautiful. I thought the CGI was going to be awful and lackluster like most of the DC Universe CGI, but they did a great job. Underwater Leviathan, and it's complemented by some pretty cool camera work. Since everything's underwater, there's a lot of unique fights, some nice choreography, and the camera follows it around in a really fun way. Not a whole lot of shaky cam, so you can oftentimes tell what is actually fucking happening, which is rare in modern action movies. I do want to point out, again, that this is super comic booky, so there's a lot of shit in here that's just gesturing. Ocean Master, for example, his signature fucking move is just this right here. The amount of times he just goes, doing this is unreal. I think he has like 9 scenes dedicated to that. Aquaman also takes a lot of poses. It's very, very comic booky. Like, just comic book panels will have like a 10-second scene of like basically a still of the character just posing with an item or posing, making a sound. And that's really, you know, it's goofy. It's super fucking goofy, but you can't help but smile because it's almost self-aware goofiness. At least I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. Really never any development in the first place. Let's just plug this shit into the moist meter. I'm giving Aquaman a 70%. It's a really fucking decent superhero movie, and I am shocked. I thought this movie was dead to rights, dead on arrival, just a big pile of shit way before it came out, and I was wrong. Absolutely wrong. It's good. It's a good movie. That's it. See ya.
Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're looking at Shazam. DC's been known to make some real stinky dog shit diapers for movies in their DC universe, and recently they've been turning it around, and I'm happy to say they keep up the momentum through Shazam. It's a good movie, but DC's also known for its awful CGI, and Shazam keeps that up and takes it to the next level by having some of the shittiest CGI I've seen from them yet. But that aside, it's still a good movie. The thing is, Shazam's at its worst when it's giving you action. Shazam is not so much a superhero movie as much as it is a family comedy and a coming of age story with some superhero elements to it. It's kind of hard to explain, but this has almost nothing that the modern superhero movies have, with like big climactic fights, villains that are fleshed out, and then like a big CGI payoff, brawl fest, dicks flying everywhere. It doesn't have that. It has a very weak villain that I think is super shitty, a very two-dimensional, uninteresting villain, but it has this great cast of characters. I think the entire crew in the foster home where most of it takes place, I think everyone in the foster home is great. I like the relationship between the main character Billy and his sidekick Freddy. I really enjoy the dynamic and the relationship between all the characters. It tells a pretty compelling story, not anything new or original, but told very well. A story of a kid who doesn't fit in, learning to accept the people around him as his family. And it's really cute and it's well told. The comedy hits more times than it misses, despite there being some very clear misses. And overall, I think the tone of the movie is shifted more for a younger audience in terms of some of the jokes it makes and the references and shit. But it's still very enjoyable for anyone who likes, a good movie. It's just very wholesome and heartfelt. Now, like I touched on briefly, the main villain sucks some filthy asshole. He's an extremely boring, uninteresting character whose only motivation is, I'm not pure of heart, so I'm gonna be real evil. That's quite literally his entire character is, I am not pure of heart, so I'm going to steal power and be powerful evil. It's not good. He's a shit character, but that's okay in this movie, because this movie isn't about hero versus villain and saving the day. It's about hero learning to become a hero and accept it and, figuring out who he is. And the villain is important in pushing him in that direction. So I get that he wasn't the main focal point of the movie, but I can't help but feel like there could have been a better way, a better villain or something, because it was just so goddamn weak. And the main villain has 7 demon sidekicks, and they look like shit. They look like Power Rangers villains. Honestly, that entire aspect, like the actual fighting and shit, looks like straight out of a 1990s superhero movie that you'd see on like Nickelodeon as like a licensed property done by a B studio. It's shit. It is really bad. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I didn't like any of the actual action and anything involving the villains. It's just really, really not well done. And again, I know it's not the main focus of the movie. That's why it's not a massive complaint, because there's not a whole lot of it. But it's there, and I do think it should be done well, especially for a big budget movie. I can't believe that they would have the demons looking as bad as they do in here. They look like they're fucking claymation, and when they're like fighting or doing anything, it is so goddamn stiff. It's like I'm watching someone puppet action figures with a string. It's terrible. It's terrible. It really is. But it is still a good movie, because that is not what it is about, so I can forgive that. That's why it's not a huge complaint, but it is a complaint nonetheless. What Shazam does that no superhero movies are doing right now is just be a lighthearted, fun experience, and know that that's what it is trying to be. It doesn't try and give you something gritty and dark or realistic and, anything like that. It gives you just something that's entertaining, something to tug on your heartstrings a little bit, something to make you laugh, something to make you feel. And that's what it does, and it relishes in that. It's very self-aware with some of the jokes it makes. It's very self-aware with the tone it wants to set, with this overly cheesy atmosphere that it sometimes gives itself. And I can really respect that, and I think it does it very well. So let's plug this shit into the moist meter. I'm giving Shazam a 70%. Like I said, the only real complaints I have are in the action department. I understand that that's not what this movie's about, but god damn it, it's in here. At least do it decently enough to be passable. Here, it's like a genuine fucking TV standard. It's not like a big budget movie standard. It's really shitty. And I can't help but point that out. I feel like everyone else glosses over that because they understand that that's not the focus. But I mean, it's there. It should at least be palatable. It tastes like a fucking wet fart in my mouth watching an action scene. It was also impossible to decipher some of the moves that were going on. Every time someone got punched, it's like the camera got punched itself and everything fucking exploded. And like everyone was made out of helium. Everyone was flying all over the place all the time. Like nothing had any weight. It's just really bad in that department. And that's what really holds the movie back. But everything else, I love everything else about the movie. I really do. I think they did a great job delivering a very, heartfelt, heartwarming, family little, feel session with Shazam. And it's cute. It's a really cute movie. That's it. See ya.
This episode is brought to you by Raycon.
Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're looking at 2019's most controversial film, Joker. I've already made a whole video talking about the drama and controversy around this movie, so I'm not going to go too hard in there. But now that I've seen it, I'd like to at least say I don't think this movie is going to incite violence and inspire children to light libraries on fire or take a shit and smear it over a cross or anything like that. I don't think this movie glorifies chaos, mayhem, or violence in any manner whatsoever, and I just wanted to get that out of the way. Now let's talk about the movie itself, which is absolutely fucking extraordinary. I went into this not expecting much. The first images I saw of Joaquin Phoenix's Joker costume made me laugh. I thought he looked like a meth addict cosplaying as a 1980s Jack Nicholson Joker without a lot of effort behind it. But man, was I blown away by this movie. I gradually got more interested in it as more trailers came out, but even still, I didn't expect it to be as good as it turned out to be. From start to finish, this movie is just a masterpiece, an absolutely incredible character piece. It's all on the back of Joaquin Phoenix's performance. It is superb. I'm not a guy who nitpicks acting. I'll go scene by scene. Oh, I didn't quite like the eyebrow expression he did there. I certainly wouldn't make it. That's not real. My immersion's broken. Fucking horrible acting. Movie's an F. I'm not the kind of guy that really grades actors that harshly on their performance. If it's really bad, I notice it. If it's really good, I certainly notice it. And in this case, it's above really good. This is on par with Heath Ledger's Joker from The Dark Knight, and that's huge. I really just think the Joker is just one of the all-around best written villains that we see in movies occasionally. I just really love the character, and I love what each actor was able to bring to it. The Heath Ledger Joker interpretation and Joaquin Phoenix's are two very different characters, so you can't exactly compare them, but Joaquin Phoenix's is just so mesmerizing to watch on screen. It always makes you uneasy, but you never really know where he's going with it. He rides the line of madness fucking incredible. He fucking tap dances on it. It's so crazy for the sake of fall into madness, fall into this really dark place. So plugging Joker into the Moist Meter, I'm giving this movie a 95%. Now, I know comic book movies and shit, everyone's so tired of adapting comic books into shit. And, I don't think the trend's dying out anytime soon, but I'm really fine with comic book movies, especially unique ones like this and The Boys. I really think comic books shouldn't be shit on just for being, cape hero shit and, all that garbage. I really think there's just so much unique stuff you can do with these properties. So I'm totally fine with more comic book movies to come, and especially if they're like The Joker and The Boys. But this movie was really, really good. Much better than I was expecting, and one of the very few times that when a movie is hyped up to be like an incredible performance from an actor, it not only matches that, but exceeds what you're expecting from the actor. An incredible movie. Really fucking good. That's it. I'm sure most of you have noticed, but I usually use wired earphones, but what most of you don't know is they're semi-rotten and the left side's wire is completely exposed. So I decided it was time to upgrade, because especially at the gym, I think that shit's probably a hazard. Gonna shock myself at any moment and ruin my rep and probably just bust my fucking ass open. So I decided to go wireless, and I got Raycon wireless. And so far, this has been fantastic. My muscles are getting bigger thanks to not fucking around with the wire at the gym, and just overall a very positive experience so far. So what are Raycons? Raycons are wireless earbuds co-founded by Ray J, and they're stylish, comfortable, come in a variety of patterns and multiple different fit options. And unlike their competitors, they're coming in at half the price of the premium brands, and they're far more discreet and stylish. You don't have the little stem hanging down your ear when you're wearing a wireless earbud. And the sound quality is just as amazing as the other top brands you're familiar with. The newest model is the best one by far. 6 hours of playtime, seamless Bluetooth pairing, more bass, and a more compact design, which gives you that nice noise isolating fit. So if you're interested, there's a link in the description below for 15% off your order.
This episode was brought to you by Surfshark. For 83% off a 2-year plan, visit surfshark.deals/penguin.
Initiating moisture.
For a while, DC movies were a joke, and everyone just kind of went to laugh at them or just be utterly disappointed to see characters they love ruined on the big screen. They had movies like Batman vs. Superman, Justice League, and Suicide Squad. Suicide Squad, I still believe, is just an utter hemorrhoid of a movie and probably the worst superhero movie of the last 20 years. Just truly abominable work for quite a while. They went on this impressive streak of just terrible movies. But now they've really started to turn it around. I don't know who the fuck they fired at DC headquarters, but great decision in that department because the movies they've been pumping out have been pretty much bangers, and Birds of Prey is another good movie into this hot streak. It's not great, it's not as good as the other DC movies that have come out recently, Aquaman, Shazam, and such, but it is a good movie. The best part about this movie is the decision they made to bring the team behind John Wick to do their action scenes for this one. That was extremely smart because that's the best part about Birds of Prey is the action scenes. The action scenes are so beautifully choreographed with really exciting set pieces, and every action scene has its own unique style to it. It's just really enjoyable, so huge props to the John Wick action choreography department for what they've done here because it absolutely shines in this movie. In particular, Harley Quinn. She's the most fun to watch in a fight because she's constantly flipping around and shit. It looks like Cirque du Soleil. She's doing like fucking head spins like in WWE, and then she's like breakdancing on top of people's heads to snap their neck. It's some crazy shit, and it's really enjoyable to watch. The second best part about Birds of Prey is their decision to totally distance itself from Suicide Squad. I expected this movie to be a disaster because it's following the worst superhero movie that Hollywood has ever puked out, Suicide Squad. I thought there'd be a tight connection. I thought we'd be seeing a lot more of Jared Leto's despicable performance as the Joker. But then immediately they let you know you're not even going to see him. You don't even see a fucking snippet of him. You don't see a fucking reflection of him, which is great. A great decision because he was terrible. Even DC divorced themselves from Jared Leto's Joker, which is the smartest thing they could have done. The movie immediately picks up after Harley Quinn and Joker break up, and it's about her dealing with being alone now, being her own woman and coming into her own identity instead of just being the sidekick to the Joker. And they explore it pretty well. Margot Robbie does a good job both in the emotional side of things and the quips, I suppose, even though I think that's really tired. They do way too much of that, and I think it just becomes oversaturated. It's overblown. You're fucking blasting my ass with constant Harley Quinn isms, and it's just too much at a certain point. But when they were doing the emotional stuff, I felt like she delivered a great performance, and I just couldn't be happier that it doesn't have a tight connection to Suicide Squad. I am so glad we don't have to deal with anything that movie tried to do or set up, and let's just totally fucking forget that it ever happened, like X-Men Origins Wolverine. Those are the two best parts of the movie by far. The things I didn't like about the movie was the narrative. The narrative is simple. There's nothing wrong with the narrative. You know, a pickpocket steals a diamond. She's a kid, and now that diamond was really important, so everyone's after the kid, and they're after Harley Quinn because they want to kill her because they don't like her. Simple stuff, but I don't like the way they delivered the narrative, especially in the beginning, because the movie started out with, here's some shit going on, and then Harley Quinn, as she's narrating, breaking the fourth wall, says, wait just a minute. You don't know what's going on. Let's rewind a week so I can tell you what's going on. I was, queefing in the bathroom, and then I ordered this burrito taco, and wacky stuff. And then it catches itself up, and she says, wait, just a minute, here's a character you don't know. Let's back up 4 days and tell you about this character. And then you watch that shit, and then it catches back up. Wait a minute, it's just fucking frustrating at a certain point, and it gets a little convoluted. It's unnecessary. I think it just tried really hard to be a bit wacky, which absolutely cost it in the narrative department. There's really nothing wrong with it, and I really like the characters they introduce, Canary, Huntress, and especially Ewan McGregor as Roman Sionis. I really enjoyed Ewan, at least for the beginning part of the movie, because he was really fucking feeling himself. He was clearly having a lot of fun just being this hammy character, cartoonishly evil. I'm surprised he didn't have a handlebar mustache that he was twirling for half the movie, because his shit was just comically overbearing evil. Like, he peels people's fucking faces off. And then he was going to let someone go and then peels their face off because he didn't like the snot in their nose. It's some goofy shit, and I love the way McGregor played it. I thought it was super enjoyable. He was great, but towards the end of the movie, they just never gave it a rest, and so it just became a little too much and a little again, the same problem they had with Harley Quinn, just too fucking much of what made them good. It starts to make you want to roll your eyes, which is a shame, but still, I enjoyed it. There's nothing wrong with the movie fundamentally. I don't think it's like a bad movie, but there's absolutely some things that I think are flawed with it, mainly in its storytelling and just in the way they handle the humor, because I think the comedy just doesn't land all that often. It tries to do that XD random shit from like a decade ago where she's obsessed with food. Like, oh, this is the perfect egg sandwich. An egg sandwich so great it'll make your mother shit her pants. Oh, no, I didn't get to eat my egg sandwich. I lost what I truly love. Damn you. Shit like that. I don't care for that. And that's like the main way they do humor in this movie. I don't think the dialogue for comedy is strong. But during their action scenes, they throw in some physical comedy, and I think that works. So that might be the John Wick team again, who knows? But anything involving physicality in this movie, I thought worked beautifully, including the comedy that they wove in to their action scenes. There's one more thing I feel I need to mention when talking about this movie. It's not like the Charlie's Angels reboot, where in the Charlie's Angels reboot, literally the first fucking scene is some misogynistic asshole saying, women can't do half the things a man can do. Can a woman make a car go fast? No, only the calloused grease hands of a man can do that. Just misogynistic shit like that. Birds of Prey isn't that kind of movie. It doesn't do those kind of things. Yeah, the main villain is a misogynistic asshole, but he's also a fucking guy that you're supposed to hate who peels the faces off of people and has no problem killing kids. It's not at all like Charlie's Angels reboot, which is good. So plugging Birds of Prey into the moist meter, giving this a fat 70%, I think it's just an all-around enjoyable movie where the best parts of it is the action, and luckily there's a lot of action, and yeah, I really did enjoy it, which is I didn't expect to, just because of how bad Suicide Squad is, but I was pleasantly surprised, and great decision to bring in the John Wick team. Fuck yeah. The internet can be a scary place. You don't need me to tell you about that. I don't need to gather you around the campfire and tell you internet horror stories or anything. But I think it's worth noting, how can you protect yourself? That's why I want to talk about Surfshark. Surfshark is a very robust VPN. I'm sure all of us are familiar with VPNs these days because they're pretty much a necessity at this point. We all know the privacy benefits, the security benefits. Surfshark helps encrypt all of your data sent over the internet, so it protects your messages and everything in that regard. But also, aside from just the security benefits you get using a VPN, you're also able to help yourself in the entertainment world. Let's say Netflix has region locked your favorite show to a place you're not in. You can use VPN Surfshark to change your location to that area and watch that show. No hassle, it's simple, it's easy, and Surfshark VPN is extremely robust. It also comes with a whitelist feature, so that way if it doesn't accidentally block something you want to access, you can always whitelist whatever you want, which is a great feature that I really appreciate. So if you're interested, you can go to surfshark.deal/penguin to get 83% off a 2-year plan plus 1 extra month free. That's surfshark.deal/penguin for 83% off that 2-year plan and a free month, baby.
Initiating moisture.
Welcome back to the Moist Meter. Today we're taking a look at Wonder Woman 1984. I actually really liked the original Wonder Woman and thought it was one of DCU's better movies, especially amid all the dog shit they were pumping out at the time. They even went on a little bit of a streak there because Aquaman also turned out to be decent. But with Wonder Woman 1984, I feel like they've gone right back to the dog shit diaper because it's not very good. I'm going to go ahead and get the compliments out of the way right now because there's only a couple of them for this movie. Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman continues to be exceptional in the role, and I think with the emotional scenes that she hits in this movie, she hits them even better than she ever has. I think she does a really great job with the character, and I think Pedro Pascal is an incredible villain. I think he's great. I'm also just a huge fan of his, and he does great in this role, and also the villain is pretty interesting with a cool gimmick. He's not just like some superpowered fucking meatball of a man that ends in a climactic boss battle where they're just like slapping each other around. It's actually a pretty interesting gimmick. That's really where my compliments end for this movie, because everything else about it I just think was a huge step back from the original. First of all, it's way too long. It's 2.5 hours, and it feels like it's 5 hours long. I felt like I was in some kind of fucking hyperbolic time chamber. It was miserably long for no reason. Past the initial opening action, there's 70 minutes where almost nothing happens except building characters slowly and uninterestingly. I'll get into that in a minute. I'm not going to spoil anything, but it is just a slog. It tries to cram a ton of fucking things in here for no reason, and they don't really mesh very well together. So the best part about the movie visually is the intro, when they're doing this Olympic Games event when Diana was a child. It looks great, it sounds great thanks to the score from Hans Zimmer, and it's probably the most interesting visual point of the film, although it doesn't really do anything. All of the Olympic Games that happen in the beginning, which is like 10 minutes worth, they don't play any fucking role in the movie at all except for one thing, where they say, hey, Diana, honesty's good. That's really like the whole message is being honest is pretty good. Felt like I was watching like some kind of fucking Teletubbies thing or like Boo-Bahs on Nick Jr. It was a really weird message to drive home, and especially to give it like a 10-minute Olympic Games thing just to say, hey, Diana, try honesty. It's just kind of silly. But visually, it's the best part of the movie because after that, the CGI and everything falls apart. It looks like shit half the time. Like when Diana's running, it looks like a malfunction in a video game cutscene. It looks like some Cyberpunk 2077 glitches. The CGI is rough. I'm not exaggerating. When she's running, it looks like she's floating or like a poltergeist event. It looks like when Google tried to teach AI how to walk for the first time and it came up with like these weird fucking strides. It's weird. The CGI is really bad in a lot of points. And the first mall scene, like the first bit of action this movie really has, is terrible. It's like a cheesy 1960s Adam West Batman thing. I don't know if they were going for that vibe, but she stops this mall robbery where these like cartoonishly silly bad guys are like planning a heist and they get some shit, and then one of them gets caught, so he's dangling a girl over a ledge. He's gonna drop the girl because he doesn't want to go back to jail, as if somehow killing a child is gonna make him avoid jail time. I don't really get it. But then Wonder Woman saves the day, and it's the cheesiest shit of all time. It looks terrible. Everyone's like on wires, and they're being like pushed and pulled around. It's not good at all. It reminded me of like a scene from Jingle All the Way, like Turbo Man coming to save the day. It was very dumb, and I definitely thought that was going to be the tone of the movie from there on. But it doesn't. It's not. It's really disjointed from everything else because after that, it's just a completely slowed down character piece where it's kind of just Diana and Kristen Wiig talking for a long time. And I don't think Kristen Wiig is a bad actress or anything, but she is not good in this movie. She's good at points in the movie, but her character, they really tried to build it and they were just unsuccessful. And also in the beginning, like the first 20 scenes with Kristen Wiig, she's wearing these glasses that are reflecting the green screen off her glasses. It was extremely distracting because every time you see Kristen Wiig in a scene, you see the green screen too. I honestly don't know how they missed that because it is glaring. It was like the only thing I could focus on when I saw Kristen Wiig. I'd like tune out everything else and I just focus on the fucking green screen in her glasses. It was wild how that stayed in the final cut here, and also surprising how few people seem to have noticed that. But again, it's not really a problem with Kristen Wiig's acting. I think she does fine in the role. It's just the character really wasn't given enough room to be interesting. Like, she has two scenes where she's like awkward and, I'm a nobody, but I want to be somebody. And then they introduce the plot device, which is a wishing stone. So, I wish I was somebody. Of course, the whole movie is the cliche, be careful what you wish for thing. So in the next scene, she's like super badass and a real powerful somebody. And it's just very silly. It goes like 3 scenes where she's awkward, and then she's immediately not awkward anymore. So it's not like they really built anything up, at least not successfully. I really don't even see why they included her in here, except for the fact that she becomes super-powered somebody. And I guess that's the only thing they wanted, so that way there could be like a potential showdown or something. I don't know why they wouldn't just focus on Pedro Pascal, because he's the actual like interesting villain of the movie. I just don't actually see what role Barbara Minerva played in this, the character played by Kristen Wiig, except for the fact that they wanted some kind of big showdown at the end, and you can't really do that with Pedro Pascal, just given how he is as a villain. It wouldn't work, and I think they wanted to have some kind of CGI showdown, which is weird because that's definitely the weakest part of the movie is their visuals. And to get around this, in the final like fight scene, which is all CGI, they have it take place at night where you can hardly fucking see anything because it is absolutely atrocious. When the light does accidentally hit their CGI characters towards the end, man does it look bad. So I don't even know why they bothered to include the character in there. They could have just focused on the actual villain who is actually interesting, Pedro Pascal. They had 2.5 hours and it felt like they did nothing but wipe their ass with that time. I did enjoy the back and forth between Chris Pine and Gal Gadot. I think they had good chemistry, and I did like some of the more wholesome scenes. And it's not like the worst movie ever made, but it is actually just a significant step backwards since the first Wonder Woman in 2017. I don't know what happened or even what they were really going for in this movie, because it's super light on action and all of the action is much smaller. Like in Wonder Woman, you'd have like full fucking war fights. In Wonder Woman 1984, all of the fights happen in singular rooms. The first one happens in a small area of a mall. The next action scene happens on a small piece of a highway in the desert. The next action scene happens in a small room in a very notable building. And then the last one happens on a single ledge overlooking a small little puddle of water. So all of the action is significantly smaller and more contained. There's significantly less action. The pacing is pretty fucking garbage in this movie. The emotional scenes with characters aren't as explored as it was in 2017's Wonder Woman. Everything in Wonder Woman 1984 is worse than the original. It's really kind of inarguable. The only thing that is better is Gal Gadot's performance when it comes to those small emotional moments. I think she does a great job with her acting, and I do think Pedro Pascal does a great job with his character, but those are really the only two highlights of this movie. It's just not that good. So, plugging Wonder Woman 1984 into the moist meter, I'm giving it a 40%. It seems the DC headquarters has been hit with some kind of gas attack by the Joker that has turned them all back into the talentless creators they were in 2016 with shit like the Suicide Squad, because this movie is just not good. I thought they had finally started to find their footing with their movies when it came to like Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Shazam even. Like they had some good movies coming out of the pipeline, but something must have gone awry because this one really just wasn't good. It's carried entirely by the performance of Gal Gadot and Pedro Pascal, and there's a few cool moments occasionally in the movie, but they're extremely rare and I can count them on one hand. It's not a good movie. That's about it. So yeah.
Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're looking at the Zack Snyder Justice League. This Snyder cut has been released and I can't fucking believe it. I thought it was just like an Alex Jones conspiracy that DC fanatics were holding on to, something that didn't exist. Like the fucking fountain of youth for DC. And like a fool, I believe that even if there was some Zack Snyder unicorn that somehow fixed all of the major problems from Justice League 2017, I thought it would never be released. I thought they would never see the light of day. And I just, again, thought it was such a far-fetched idea that there'd even be a way of salvaging the mess that was the Justice League movie. It's not the worst movie DC ever made, but it really, truly was pretty fucking bad. I wasn't a huge fan of it when it came out, and I really didn't have high hopes for the Snyder Cut, even when they did reveal it existed, and I'm just gonna have to eat a full ass of shit on this one, because I was very wrong. Not only does it exist, and not only were the rumors true about it actually fixing a lot of the things in the Justice League movie, it is actually good, too. I was wrong 3 times on this whole thing. The Zack Snyder Justice League is an incredible improvement over the original theatrical release. It's not even comparable. It is laughable how much worse the theatrical version is compared to Snyder's version. It's crazy. It was already a bad movie, but when you compare it to this, it's like comparing a Pee-wee middle school football team to the fucking Patriots. It's so silly that what we got in theaters was nothing like what Snyder had originally put onto paper, because it's night and day. I couldn't even recognize half the scenes in this movie from the original because they fit so differently here and there were so many changes. I initially thought it'd be so trivial, like mundane, 5 scenes throughout the entire movie maybe that they added to make it better. But this is a whole brand new movie, it feels like. The experience is completely different. It adds so much more depth to the characters that was absolutely absent in the one that released in theaters. Each character actually has a story this time and makes you care about them. Cyborg is a good character. Flash, good character. Steppenwolf actually has character to him now instead of just being some goofy villain that looks silly. He looks badass, looks like something right out of fucking Doom, and he actually has a little depth to him. It really did solve the problems Justice League had and made it better in every possible area. It is objectively an improvement in every category except one: runtime. And this isn't a problem I necessarily have, but this is a 4-hour movie. So you're getting double the Justice League, so you would hope they'd fill it with things that matter, and they did. There's not a whole lot of times throughout watching the movie where I was getting bored or felt like things were dragging. After the first 2 hours, I didn't even realize 2 hours had gone by. I was just really invested in it and shit was just flying. They did a really good job of keeping the audience interested throughout this extremely long runtime, which is impressive. I've seen some people say that this movie would be better if it was just two movies, kind of like Avengers, Infinity War, and Endgame. That shit would not work for this movie. If they divided that in half, you would be left with the wettest fart of a first half, because the first half is spent entirely setting up the characters and setting up the stakes. There would be nothing, there'd be no payoff, there'd be really nothing that you'd look back and be like, yep, that was fucking great. You would look back and be like, man, I just watched setup for a movie that isn't out yet. You'd feel like your time was wasted, and you'd probably wouldn't want to watch the second part. It works as a 4-hour movie because it spends so much time building these characters up. It's like you're watching 4 or 5 episodes of a TV show you really like back to back to back. It's well done, and I'm shocked to say that. I don't think it's the best DC movie that's been made, but compared to the one that came out in theaters, it's completely different in all the right ways. But there are still problems with the movie. For the biggest complaint I have, it's the CGI. I don't know what it is with DC. I don't know if they're just really trying to nickel and dime CGI artists and the departments that make their CGI, just trying to get like the best bang for a small buck. But there are times where the CGI is again laughable, a problem other DC movies, including the theatrical release of Justice League. Every time the Flash would move in the original Justice League, he'd turn into an absolute fucking wet noodle. It was goofy and weird. There was a lot of bad CGI in that movie, and that is present here. So I guess it didn't fix everything, but most of it. When Wonder Woman is first introduced in the Snyder Cut, she comes out and it's like she's completely weightless. She just like starts teleporting around and punching people that feel like helium balloons being slapped by a child in a grocery store. They just launch instantly. They just like fucking ricochet all over the place like they're made out of rubber. It's really goofy, and when she moves, it looks awful. It looks jarring. Like she's blocking bullets and she's doing it really fast. And it looks like, I don't even know how to describe it, a video game glitch. It's hard to even put into words. It just looks wrong. It looks amateurish. You immediately get taken out. You're like, fuck, this is goofy. So there are definitely bad CGI moments in here, which I guess is to be expected from DC at this point, which is a shame. But what I do like that they added is blood. Snyder said, you know what, I want this shit to be gory. And I can respect that. It's not like it needed to be. It doesn't really gain anything from being a bit edgy with its blood. But I just appreciate that it's there just for the sake of being there. The characters don't get edgier. They're not dropping like fuck and shit titties or anything with like their dialogue. They're not going like hard in the edginess. But the blood and gore is for some reason, which is fine. I thought that was just kind of a creative, cute choice. Not a complaint. Doesn't really do anything to make the movie better either, but it is a change where there's a point where a guy gets chopped in half underwater, which definitely wouldn't have been there in the theatrical release. So the biggest problem, though, is definitely the CGI. It gets rough, and rough is an understatement. It gets real fucking bad. Like, at points it looks like a goddamn machinima from 2010 using Injustice cutscenes, which I also said about the theatrical Justice League movie, not Snyder Cut. So that's the biggest problem that I had with the movie. Another problem I have is it oftentimes feels a bit disjointed. Like, Snyder obviously had a very grand vision for the film, but at points it feels like he just took the theatrical release of Justice League and started breaking things up and putting better things in. But as a result, it just becomes a lot of different pieces that aren't always flowing. So you'll have a very disjointed set of things going on. There'll be a lot of moving parts, and they're not really connecting well, at least not in the beginning. For example, you'll have a Cyborg flashback where he's playing football and then something bad happens. Then you go right to the Flash, who's going over his motivation because something bad happened. Then it's back to Cyborg, back to Flash, stay on Flash, back to Cyborg, now to Batman, back to Cyborg, now to Flash. Like, it really does feel pretty chopped up. And oftentimes, well, not oftentimes, but in the beginning, it doesn't make for a cohesive exposition. It just feels kind of all over the place at points, in my opinion. But that doesn't mean it's bad, because it's filled with much better elements that are much better for the overall film. Because now you care about the characters and you know more about them. They're not as two-dimensional, which I think is very important to a movie like Justice League, who is built upon its heroes. You have to fucking care about them, and they have to be cool. They're much cooler here. much more well-rounded. The movie is enjoyable. It is a significant improvement. Oh, also, I did have one more minor complaint that I wanted to point out. When they first introduced Darkseid and show one of his conquests, he gets his ass beaten really fucking hard. He gets slapped around and looks like an absolute pussy. They hype him up as like this galactic, well, fucking multi-universe level threat that every universe is afraid of. And then the first time you see Darkseid in action, he doesn't do anything. He slams a staff into the ground, makes a big explosion, and then gets absolutely blasted, absolutely manhandled and rolled. So it wasn't exactly like the coolest way of introducing and setting up the big bad by just having him be a punching bag. That was just a minor complaint. It's not a big deal, but I thought I might as well point that out. So I'm shocked to say all of this. I thought this was just going to be a big letdown for DC fans, and I thought I was going to just get the big laugh saying, I told you so, or, but I didn't. It's good, and I enjoyed it. Plugging Justice League's Snyder cut into the Moist meter, I've got to give it an 85. It's really impressive what he was able to do and what the team was able to do. They weren't satisfied with the theatrical release of Justice League, and they said, we want to fix it because we know we have something better, and they did it. It really does feel like a passion project and a labor of love, and I really respect that. They weren't satisfied with the mediocrity, and they made it better. And they made it significantly better, and I think there's nothing but to commend them for that. But yeah, anyway, that's about it. With spring break right around the corner, it's important that you take your grooming seriously, which is why I want to talk about Manscaped. Manscaped will ensure the spring break party in your pants never stops and that the party is looking good and all the guests that attend are having a great time. Manscaped has all the tools you need to look and feel your best. There's of course the classic Perfect Package Kit 3.0, which comes with the essential Lawnmower 3.0, waterproof cordless body trimmer, a ton of other liquid formulations to round out the grooming routine, and that Lawnmower 3.0 is the Excalibur for grooming. It is just the perfect tool. It also comes in with that beautiful advanced skin-safe technology so you're not hurting yourself when you're taking care of business down there. I've been using it for over a year now and I haven't had a single injury, which is fantastic. So I can just go wild without any fear. It feels great to take control, and there's more than just the Lawnmower 3.0 and the Perfect Package Kit. There's just so many items on Manscaped that will help you take your grooming to the next level and get ready for the spring break party. So if you're interested in trying Manscaped products for yourself, you can go to manscaped.com/moist to get 20% off and free shipping. That's manscaped.com/moist for 20% off and free shipping. That's it. So yeah.
Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're taking a look at the new Batman movie. This is, of course, unrelated to the Nolan trilogy as well as the Affleck universe. This is a standalone dimension where Batman is just starting to get into the swing of things and figuring out what he needs to be for Gotham. I actually think Gotham is the best part of this movie, the city itself. It is hell on earth, and they don't shy away from showing you it. It is truly a shithole, a stinky, festering cesspool. And, of course, throughout all of Batman media, everyone knew Gotham's got a lot of crime, it's not a good place to live, but this is the first Batman movie that really doesn't pull punches in showing you just how awful and miserable and hopeless that city is, to the point where even Batman questions if it will ever actually yield any results what he's doing, and it might just be a lost cause, fighting a losing battle. And you see that now, and I think that's a really interesting detail, because the majority of this movie, and it's a long movie, it's almost 3 hours, the majority of it takes place at night. So for most of the time, Robert Pattinson is Batman. You don't really see a whole ton of Bruce Wayne. So you're getting to see him actively trying to make Gotham a better place and seeing him fail at every turn to have a positive effect. In fact, things are only getting worse with him being there, despite him having a very profound effect on criminals themselves. He's still new to being a vigilante, but in the short time he's been operating, he has become fear incarnate, and the movie does a great job of showing you how scary the Batman can be. A criminal just stole money from a cash register, and then down a dark alley he hears some weird noises. Some criminals were graffitiing a place and their spray can bottle fucking rolls into a dark hallway, and then they all look up and they see the bat signal like, fuck, Batman's probably over there like the boogeyman about to fuck me in my ass, and they all run away just out of fear. And then there's some some common criminals that are about to beat up a man for no reason just for the sake of a viral TikTok video and hit like a Harlem Shake afterwards or something. But then they start hearing these thunderous fee-fi-fo-fum footsteps coming from the darkness, and Batman emerges and everyone's getting their ass beaten. He's blasting everyone. The movie does a great job of showing you a scary, broody Batman. And it does a great job of that. But then here comes my first complaint. I think Batman is great, and I think Robert Pattinson does a great job as Batman, but there's no disconnect between Batman and Bruce Wayne. They're the same character in this movie. When he takes off the mask and is Bruce Wayne, he is still just as broody and emo as Batman. You know, whereas in all the other Batman iterations, Bruce Wayne puts on a facade. He's a playboy douchebag. He's completely different when he's out of uniform, when he's off the clock. But in this movie, Pattinson's still just fucking sad and depressing, even when he's not being Batman. So he's around Alfred, and he's just like, Alfred, you're not my dad. Don't act like my fucking dad. Like, it honestly sounds like he's one Pierce the Veil song away from rage quitting MySpace. There's just no difference between Batman and Bruce Wayne. Even when Bruce Wayne was in the public eye, like paparazzi, people around him and everything, he was still head down, slouched, didn't say anything to anyone, just very broody again. Which is very weird to me because I'm used to the Bruce Wayne being like Chad Thundercock and Batman being the very serious, very broody, dark figure, not Bruce Wayne and Batman. So I don't think it's like the worst decision in the world because I think it can work, and he is still very new to this, so he's still figuring out exactly who he needs to be and all of that. But still, it was something I felt I should point out because it didn't work super well for me, at least not in this movie. I think him as Batman was fantastic, but him as Bruce Wayne, I just didn't really think hit as hard as it needed to. I thought every other character did a fantastic job. Alfred wasn't in the movie a ton, but when he was, I thought he did a great job of commanding the scenes. I really liked Alfred, as well as the other supporting characters. Selena Kyle, which is Zoe Kravitz, she did a great job as Catwoman. And just the entire cast, honestly. But the real standout to me was actually the Riddler. The Riddler's a character I've always found to be super goofy, not very intimidating, and more of just like a comic relief villain. Now, I'm no big comic book lore expert. I don't know if the Riddler's ever been super cool, but in everything I've ever seen him in, he hasn't exactly been like the most intimidating or scary villain in Gotham. But in this movie, he was like fucking Jigsaw. He was a criminal mastermind who set up all kinds of wildly elaborate puzzles as well as actual saw traps. I don't want to give any spoilers, really, but there is one time where he uses something I'm pretty sure I saw in Saw 4. Like, he has a contraption on someone that he wants to punish and get Batman's attention with, and it's pretty fucking intense. The movie, I'm shocked, is PG-13 because it feels like it wanted to be R. From the very first mystery that Batman has to solve, they seem to want to go hard. Dude's missing a thumb. He's been beat to death with a fucking hammer. It's intense. It really does feel like it tries to deliver an R-rated experience at the PG-13 price. Like, it doesn't. It feels like they may have just dialed it back in post in order to hit PG-13. I obviously can't prove that, but it still works just as well. Just because it's not like over-the-top gory or showing everything that I feel it wanted to show, it doesn't take away from it. I think the movie is really smart. I think it does a great job of giving you a detective mystery, as well as just some great actual superhero kind of shit. Batman is still every bit as cool in this movie as he always has been. I think Robert Pattinson does a great job when he's beating ass, when he's solving crimes. He's obviously very smart. There's never a scene in this movie where I feel like Batman is lame or anything. It's same with the Riddler. And I really thought the Riddler would be just kind of a goofy pick for their main villain, but it's a great, great job. And there's so much to it. It's more than just the Riddler. There's a lot that goes on. There's a lot of moving parts. And this is going to bring me to my next complaint, and it's one that I can't touch on too hard because of spoilers, but when the Batman is solving some of these mysteries, he completely throws the value of human life out the window. And what I mean by this is there's a giant car chase, and the chase is fantastic. It is really well shot, and I love that they wanted to really stick with realism, so instead of having a giant tumbler, he has a fucking muscle car with a crazy jet turbine thing on it like you see in the trailers. Goes full-blown Dukes of Hazzard. But what happens in this chase scene is Batman is so fixated on catching the guy he's chasing, he completely disregards all of the lives around him that are lost. Because in this scene, there's tons of cars crashing into each other, and the people are actually dying because the cars explode. There's a scene where he... this is a minor spoiler, I suppose, so just fair warning. Okay, warning over. There's a scene where 2 trucks explode. Those people are absolutely dead, and as well as the cars around them. The 2 trucks explode, and he ramps off of the trucks with his vehicle as those trucks are exploding. So all of those people are dead, and it's entirely Batman's fault because he was chasing this guy for so long on such a busy interstate. Whereas he didn't really need to chase him. He had everything he needed to know about the guy, and in fact, when he caught him, just let him go, right? Like, he didn't need to chase him, so all of those lives didn't need to be lost in this pursuit. He could have just come back a different time. So when, of course, Batman inevitably gives the whole speech about why taking lives is wrong, it really loses a little bit of its impact, because it's like, bro, you are directly responsible for at least like 100 people that died on that interstate because of your senseless chase through there. Like, you have no room to be saying things like that. So it's just something I wanted to point out, a little nitpick. And there's also another scene where he is like quite literally directly responsible for people around him getting hurt that aren't even involved. But the thing I'm saying is there are times where I was like, a little weird that Batman would be okay ramping off the fucking corpse of these people in this chase. So I just wanted to point that out. It's not like a major complaint, it's more of just something that kind of rubbed me the wrong way and felt a bit weird. Overall, though, I just really did like the movie. I thought 3 hours was going to be way too long, but it was a great runtime for everything that they captured here. It told a fantastic story and was a really good coming of age for Batman, honestly. You get to learn a lot about the character and see them, I wouldn't say grow, because by the end of the movie he's still just as broody, but he starts to realize more of what Gotham needs from him. And it was just a really good movie, and it was super well shot. There were so many incredible scenes in this movie, I couldn't even pick like what my favorite would be, because there were just so many amazing moments that I thought just fucking slapped. One other thing that I do want to point out that it's a bit of a complaint is there are times where relationships between characters just fucking go wacky, like Insano style, quickly. For example, I'm not, I've already gotten into minor spoilers, I won't do any more, but there's a relationship that blossoms out of nowhere. Batman only shares a couple scenes with this person, and then 15 minutes later, they're in love, it seems. Even though there was really nothing that built up to that. So things move quickly between characters and their relationships that I don't think they really earned. Like, it doesn't seem like there was a natural progression to get there. It just kind of, oh, okay, I guess we're in love now. And that happens again narratively, where Batman learns something and it's a huge, huge revelation, and then in genuinely the next scene learns something that contradicts that and overwrites that. So it's like, oh, fuck, okay, actually, that was never real to begin with. Okay, it was a misunderstanding. It's like, maybe we should have let that plot point marinate a bit more before we immediately said that it's not true, because it would have been a lot more impactful, because it was a big moment, and then in the next scene, it gets shit on and told is wrong. So there's just some things where I felt like it went too fast with things and didn't let it develop naturally. But overall, I really thought the movie was great. Plugging the Batman into the moist meter, I'm giving it a clean 80%. There weren't really any major complaints I had about the movie. Honestly, I just enjoyed it top to bottom, with a couple of minor complaints that I mentioned. And I'm very hopeful for like future Batman movies. I think Robert Pattinson is a good fit. I would like to see more come from Bruce Wayne as opposed to Batman. I'd like to see Bruce Wayne get the same kind of development that the Batman can get. But anyway, great movie. That's about it. See ya. Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're taking a look at Black Adam. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I'm very tired of superhero movies and shows. I'm definitely getting slapped around by superhero fatigue. But I went into this movie expecting it to be pretty good, at least formulaic and standard, nothing like bad, nothing special. And more or less that's what I got. Though I did enjoy it far more than I expected to, and that's because the movie just puts a huge emphasis on action. The action's very flashy, and I really enjoyed all of the fight sequences, of which there is a lot. And I will say, I imagine at least half of this movie's total runtime is spent in slow motion. There is slow motion in almost every scene. There's more slow-mo in this film than fucking Matrix. Like, they use bullet time more often than Matrix did. But yeah, it's certainly not like a polished film by any stretch of the imagination. Now, I actually kind of reviewed it live on stream last night, so I'm just going to play the clips since that's like my full thoughts just being vomited out of my fucking mouth on stream. So Here's my moist meter dump, and then I'll give you like the official score at the end. You get exactly what you're expecting. Very super safe, super standard story. Very flat characters. The only character I actually liked was Pierce Brosnan, but I'm also just a Pierce Brosnan fan, and Dr. Fate was cool. Everyone else is just like the most generically written character you'll ever see in a movie, ever. But it's serviceable because it's mainly just about its action, and it does a really good job with the action. Black Adam's just zapping holes in people's chests, ripping them in half, blowing them up, but like vaporizing them. Like, it was refreshing to see a superhero just murder people, so that was cool. So I could totally excuse flat characters and a lackluster story because it seems like the focal point was just here's Black Adam going on a massacre. He's an anti-hero. Man, there's no such thing as an anti-hero in big budget comic movies anymore. He's just a hero in the movie. Spoilers, he's just a hero. He doesn't do anything morally questionable other than kill people, which I don't even think is morally questionable in universe. He only kills bad guys. I'll give you my live moist meter, though. Hitting you with all the takes on it. Visuals were good. I agree. Black Adam had good visuals. I also really didn't like how two characters, two meta-humans, I won't spoil who, they do nothing. They serve no purpose in the Justice Society. They just tag along doing fucking nothing. I don't know why even have them at that point. Just focus on, like, your superstars. Why even bother bringing them when they're not even given roles? What do you think about the post-credit scene for Black Adam? I don't know if I've said this publicly, but I'll say it here with my whole chest unashamedly. I don't stay for the post-credit scenes anymore. I just can't be bothered. I just go home and Google it, and I'll read what the post-credit scene was. The post-credit scenes sound kind of hype from Black Adam, though. This man is a movie reviewer. I know, what a fraud. Doesn't even stay for the fucking post-credit scene after goddamn 10 minutes of scrolling text. I just look it up. Like, it's so much easier. I leave the theater, go in the car, I look it up, I read what it was because it's only like a 2-minute blurb in the post-credit scenes ever. So I just get the 4 sentences of what the post-credit scene was, and I'm like, yep, let's go. Oh, one other thing I want to point out about Black Adam that I think is rough, but it's not important because, again, the story and the characters aren't important. The main lead actress, I got the impression she didn't give a fuck about her son at all. Like, throughout the whole film, like, she says, like, oh, we have to save my son. But I never felt it. It always just felt like they couldn't give a fuck less. She's like, but my son's I don't know about spoilers. My son's got an important item. We have to save him. And they're like, we'll save him. Okay, good. Just whenever it's convenient, honestly. Just really, don't worry about it. But sooner would be better. But again, it's fine. I'm sure it'll be fine. And then she just lets him, like, skateboard around the entire city, like, starting, like, a riot. I don't know, it just felt like there was never any real stakes. Obviously, well, again, I guess this is spoilers. It's so fucking hard to talk about movies like this without spoilers. Because most of my complaints are about some of the dumb shit. But it is spoiler territories. It doesn't matter, though, because, again, the focal point is on Black Adam just killing people, which is, it's well done. It's cool. This isn't a spoiler. Another trope that I'm really tired of in superhero movies that all of a sudden now they're going whole hog on is giving children like an integral role as like a superstar, like a superhero without powers or a superhero with temporary powers, like in Love and Thunder. I hate that shit. Like, I get that the main demographic is kids, but god damn it, I'm 28 years old. The last thing I want to see is some snot-nosed, milk-drinking little nerd going around defeating demons. Like, I don't like that. It makes me, it just irks me. Just show me the cool stuff. The grisly characters getting after it. I want to see, like, the daycare get out and go blast skeletons. You're just jealous? I would have loved it as a kid, 100%. Not, like, I get it. Again, the main demographic I know is kids. And I know if I was a kid, I would be eating that shit up. But as an adult who's mad about everything, that is just one of my big pet peeves. I don't mind if the kid has like a big role or something important to the story, but stop giving him like the power of friendship to beat demons out of nowhere. Not that I'm saying it happens in Black Adam, but there may or may not be some ordinary people with no powers that start killing some demons with pipes and golf clubs. Maybe it's in there. Overall, I really did enjoy the movie. It's nothing special, but it is just a really fun action film. So, plugging Black Adam into the moist meter, I'm going to give it a 70%. I think the character could also be really cool in the universe. This is definitely one of DC's better movies, I would say. So, I'm excited to see where Black Adam goes from here. Hopefully, he'll continue to murder people. Hopefully, that whole, no killing rule doesn't apply to Black Adam anytime soon. Because right now, he's pretty badass. So, yeah, that's about it. See ya.
This episode of Moist Meter brought to you by Godslap. Issue 3 is out right now at godslapbook.com. You can find links below in the description. Go check it out.
Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're taking a look at the new Shazam movie, Shazam! Fury of the Gods. I mean, it's not great. I mean, it's not horrible, but it's not very good. I don't know what to tell you. It really feels like DC's serving up Naruto filler for movies at the moment. This whole film felt so utterly worthless. I can't even like fully explain it without getting into spoilers. So I'm not going to, because I try and avoid spoilers to the best of my ability. But it feels like the stakes are super duper low, and it goes into the most cliche superhero film I may have ever seen. This feels like Marvel's first attempt at superhero films back in like early 2000s, but somehow this came out this year. Everything we've learned from superhero films over the last fucking 2 decades is thrown out the window for this one, and it falls back on the most generic shit ever. The villains are beyond bland and forgettable. They literally come out of nowhere and it's like, we're mad, we're gods, and you've made us mad because of this wizard that did this, and we're mad, so we're gonna destroy your world now. Maybe. But they're also just not powerful at all. They're not intimidating or strong. They had to have a little doodad, a little plot device gizmo that's able to instantly sap their power when they get shot by it. They literally have plot convenience darts that they can fire out of a staff. And when it hits them, it steals their power back and they just become normal kids again. Because if it was to be like an actual toe-to-toe fight, they'd lose. And it wouldn't even be close. One of the villain's powers is she can whisper in your ear and make you do things. But she can't even do that half the time. She only demonstrates this working twice. The other, 3 times she uses it, a child overcomes it every time. A literal kid. It's supposed to showcase the kid being strong, but really it just showcases that god being weak as fuck. Where she can't even, mind control a child. So, and that's all she does. She doesn't even demonstrate, super strength or anything. All she can do is whisper, tell you little secrets, and, inception you. And that's it. And then, the main villain, she can control elements. But all she uses that for is to make a box hit Shazam at one point. Or throw a amalgamation of concrete and traffic cones at Shazam once. And then put up a barrier twice. It's it's all so unbelievably underwhelming. They're just not good villains at all. From a writing perspective, a motive perspective, power perspective, they're not cool. There's a dragon in the movie, and even the dragon's not cool. The dragon's so fucking weak. They hype up the dragon like it's the eater of worlds and all that, but we don't see it do anything at all that demonstrates it being anything more than just this flying nuisance like a mosquito. But anyway, I'm focusing on that a little too much. This is, at its core, a movie for children. In fact, the entire auditorium was filled with families and their kids that would cheer anytime anything at all happened with, jingling keys. I know Shazam, the first one, is very much a family film, but this one is, 10x the childishness of that. From its jokes to its actual plot and things that happen, this is very, very clearly geared towards a young audience. So that was a little disappointing. But even like the shit that happens in this film is so goofily non-important that even the main characters, for the most part, don't take it even remotely seriously for even a second. It just never feels like there's any real peril. And I absolutely fucking hate that since this has gone so far back in time into superhero movies, it has this big clusterfuck of bad CGI monsters that get spawned in. Literally like some Power Rangers shit. Just like these monsters that get spawned in, they're super shitty. They don't do anything. They like kind of move around a little bit. And I think they kill like 2 civilians. Kill, I'm using loosely. They throw them like 2 feet in the air and it's presumed that that civilian got hurt. It's just not very good at anything. I think the actors do a great job with the material that they're forced to work with. Like the acting I actually thought was even like improved. In the first film, it didn't really feel like Shazam the adult was the kid. It was 2 separate characters. Here, they feel a lot more in line, which is clearly what they're going for, and they definitely did a better job of that. But he's not really the main character in this one. Freddy's really like the heart of this film and where most of the emotion comes from. And Freddy's actor does a great job, honestly. Like, Freddy's a pretty decent character. Probably the best character in the movie, honestly. Like, he does get a bit annoying, but that's also one of his main traits. Overall, it just feels like this movie served no purpose. It felt like they made it because they felt forced to. I would imagine initially Black Adam was supposed to play a role in this because fucking obviously it's Shazam and Black Adam, but The Rock wasn't really willing to play ball, so instead they had Black Adam be completely separate, which ended up tanking this film as well. So they had to fucking ham fist and cobble together this mess of a movie. And I'm calling it a mess, but it's not like it's fucking horrible or anything. It clearly knows that it's a movie for kids, and it leans into that. So I guess a lot of it's supposed to be something that you just give a pass to, but it's just not interesting at all. It really isn't. And I really hate a lot of the back and forth that happens, in particular in the middle act of this, where it's hard to talk about with spoilers, but there's a lot of back and forth with things getting taken and then getting taken back and then taken again and then taken back. It's just, I don't know. Not a lot of this movie worked for me. The movie was really at its best when it still had like elements of adventure, which were kind of in the beginning, where, for example, they went into a room that had a lot of doors leading to a lot of places. It was a cool little environment and a cool concept that wasn't really explored. But it was a cool idea, it was interesting. Then they go to a library with flying books and like this omniscient pen that can write down anything and answer any question you have. Those 2 things are cool, but you don't see a lot of that here. There's really just not a lot of magic in general, especially for something that involves a wizard and the powers being of magic origin and the villains having magic powers. It's crazy how not prominent the magic is in the film, which is a weird decision. But yeah, aside from a couple instances of a few scenes that I thought were done well, there just wasn't a whole lot I really liked about the movie. Plugging Shazam Fury of the Gods into the moist meter, I'm gonna have to give it a 40%. I really don't think it's horrible, and definitely I can see kids enjoying this movie. I heard kids enjoying this movie while at the theater. They were going fucking crazy anytime any kind of fucking fight or anything would happen, really. So I guess it might be a hit for a young audience, but I certainly wasn't in there pumping my fist at the film or anything. So that's really about it. As most of you know, we started our own comic book series called Godslap. Everyone who's read Godslap so far has unanimously agreed that it's the best comic ever produced, and Godslap is well on its way to becoming the biggest name in all of comics, overthrowing Marvel within the next 5 years, according to recent scientific projections that I'm pulling out of my ass. It's a passion project created by myself, Jackson, Danny, and Matt, and we brought in an industry veteran named Aubrey Sitterson to help write it with us, and we're extremely proud of what we've created. Issue 1 and 2 are already out, and issue 3 came out today, as of right now. Issue 3 is available at godslapbook.com, and per usual, this is the standard cover, but we also have 2 limited edition variants, which will only exist until they're sold out, and then they'll never be reprinted. So they're available at godslapbook.com. The Moist Meter is a proud partner of our comic book series Godslap and Plague Seeker. Both are available at badegg.co, link in the description. Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're looking at the Flash movie. I just got back from basketball. The air conditioning in my house broke. It's over 80 degrees in this room right now. I can't catch a break. So I'm out here having a fucking heat flash. But I saw the Flash before basketball. Now, let's get the obvious out of the way. I'm not a big Ezra Miller fan. I think it is despicable that all of the crimes committed by Ezra Miller resulted in no real consequences. I think that is ridiculous. But I can't factor that into the review for this movie. So, setting all of that aside, how is The Flash? Because people were going full-blown gushing grannies for this film with all of the early screenings and everything. You had, like, actual huge celebrities come out and be like, this is what superhero movies are about. This just changed everything. This is the perfect superhero film. I left the theater crying I'd never seen something so powerful. Wild reviews. So I went into this movie expecting a goddamn masterpiece. So does it live up to the hype? In my opinion, no, but it is a pretty good movie. Like, I enjoyed it. It's a good film. So let's dive in. I want to start with by far the most glaringly obvious thing wrong with the film. This is by far my biggest complaint, and I just want to come out of the gate with it so that way we're all on the same page. There is a lot of moments in this film where the CGI is laughably bad, so much so that the audience laughed at some scenes for how terrible they looked. Scenes where there were no joke other than how bad the CGI looked. Now, I've already seen the cope from some of the staff on the film, as well as a lot of very passionate, enthusiastic fans saying that the reason there's a lot of scenes that look shitty is because Barry moves so fast that it distorts lights and it makes things look cartoonish. And I think that's a really silly explanation, because it's not just when Barry's moving fast that the CGI falls apart at times. It's pretty often, like, even without him doing his back to the past shit. So it's not exactly a great excuse. Plus, I feel like you still wouldn't want your blockbuster film to look like it's straight out of a fucking video game cutscene. And that's a disservice to video game cutscenes. Like, there are times in this film where I thought Injustice 2 had better looking cinematics than what I was watching on screen. I don't understand how it shipped in that state for some of those scenes. I don't know why DC struggles so much in the CGI department when that is such an integral part of these superhero films. So it flounders a bit in quite a few cases with the visuals. But now let's move on to the things I liked. I like the narrative here. I am a sucker for multiverse stuff when it's done well, and I think they do a good job with this. I think it was a smart play having Barry interact with a younger alternate Barry. So you have an obnoxious character versus an even more obnoxious character, and they both become self-aware of it. And it actually works really well having Barry bounce off Barry. I thought that dynamic actually hit. But I really feel like the best part of the film was Batman. Both Batmen, really. Ben Affleck's Batman in Barry's, original timeline, and then Michael Keaton in the alternate timeline that Barry creates. They both work so well. There's a lot of cheesy, goofy dialogue moments with Michael Keaton's Batman, but it's charmingly silly. Like when he says, "I'm Batman," to Barry, who of course already knows he's Batman, or when he says, "You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts." It's like that line didn't fit anywhere in the scene that it was happening in, but I still had a smile on my face when he said it. So I think they did a great job with Batman. However, I don't think the same can really be said for Supergirl. She doesn't have a lot to do here, and she doesn't really go through any real development of her own or have any arcs or really even that much screen time. They don't even showcase just how powerful she is. She only has like 2 real scenes, and they're both fights. She's kind of just used as a tool to really highlight some of the powerful, immutable facts about the multiverse that need to be conveyed to the audience. So she unfortunately just really didn't have much to do here. The very core of this film focuses on an emotional weight of Barry's decisions in trying to change the past and how it affects everything, not just the future, but the entire multiverse and every other world. And I do think they do a good job with the emotional impact of that and what he's gone through and how desperate he is to make these changes in order to save people he cares about. I do think they capture that very well. However, towards the end of the film, it really gets into some very cringe kind of moments. I'm trying to talk about it without spoiling things, but it shows you many different multiverses. And in what's supposed to be a serious moment towards the end comes across as just really embarrassing with some of the shit they show you and try and get across. It's hard to explain because it would be a very big spoiler, so I won't touch on it, but I do think they kind of dropped the ball towards the very end of this story. But everything up until then, I thought they did a great job with, and I do think they stick the landing at the end. It's just right towards the end. Right before the landing, they stumble and fucking faceplant for a moment before picking themselves up and getting back on track. I also thought there was a pretty decent balance between seriousness and jokes, especially for a character like Barry Allen. There were a lot of jokes between the two Barry Allens, but it wasn't overbearing and they weren't super bad or anything. I actually thought there was a pretty decent balancing act done with, here's this Barry that's a lot more serious because he's been through a lot more shit. He's now in a different reality than he's used to. It's all his fault. He's dealing with the emotional weight of that. He's trying to figure out how to fix it. He's also gone through a lot of shit that's left him in a very different state than he came there in. And then here's this Barry Allen who's just kind of a douchebag and not taking anything seriously, being over the top and silly. Them meshing and spitting some jokes back and forth. And then, I don't know, I just actually thought the humor was done pretty decently in this film, whereas that's usually a major complaint of mine from fucking superhero films, is just the formulaic, non-stop fucking jokes that never end, and they're always so generic and formulaic. This time around, I thought that there was a decent balance struck. So overall, there's just not a whole lot of things that I disliked about the film, aside from a lot of the CGI that happens here. I just really wish they would polish that up because the films would be elevated substantially, because that is just, it is noticeably bad in a lot of places. Like, there are just times where it is noticeably just bad. So that's just the major problem with it. And I do think there are a couple of moments narratively that didn't land, like I'd said. But overall, it's a pretty good film and definitely better than I was expecting it to be. Plugging the Flash in the moist meter, I'm going to give it a comfortable 70%. It's a good movie. I think all of the pre-release hype around it was a little absurd after seeing it now. I do agree that it is a good movie, especially for DC, which makes a lot of stinkers in their cinematic universe. This is definitely not one of those cases. It is fun. Above all else, it is a fun film that I do think does justice overall to the Flash as a character, as well as just the entire universe. And I'm very curious to see how they pick this up going forward. They leave a lot of questions that the answers will be very interesting to see going forward now. So yeah, that's about it. So yeah. Huge thanks to ourselves for sponsoring this Moist Meter. Godslap is a comic series written by myself, Jackson, Matt, Danny, and Aubrey Sitterson. It follows the story of a character named Ace, who's an extremely powerful slapper in a world where slapping is king. Issue 3 just dropped. It's all available at badegg.co, and shit is starting to pop off. Ace is being hunted by a mysterious foe named Defister, who, after swan diving through a hospital, picks up Ace's trail and hunts him to the ends of the earth with his sidekick Olfactor. And also, our newest comic series, Plague Seeker, just came out. Issue 0 is available at badegg.co. It's written entirely by myself and edited by Jackson. It's set in a world 1,000 years after an apocalyptic event known as the Calamity. An asteroid hits Earth, and it brought with it mutations that changed all of its inhabitants. Now the world is infested with things called plagues, and atop the food chain sits 8 great plagues that control the entire world, and only one man stands against them, the Plague Seeker, who has an insatiable appetite to devour those 8 great plagues. So all of this is available at badegg.co, so please check it out. So yeah. The Moist Meter is proudly presented by us, me, and our comic book series, Godslap and Plague Seeker. Issue 4 of Godslap just dropped. You can find it for sale at badegg.co. Now getting into the Moist Meter. Today we're taking a look at Blue Beetle. I'll go ahead and be upfront and honest right away because lying is a sin and sin is gross, and I don't want to be gross. I don't have high expectations when I go into a superhero film anymore. I feel like I always know what's coming. I know what to expect. It's the same dish I'm getting served every time for the most part. It feels like most superhero films are algorithmically driven, made following the exact same formula, just copying each other's homework. So going into Blue Beetle, I thought I knew exactly what I was going to get. And it turns out I was right. I got pretty much exactly what I was expecting for the most part. But that doesn't mean it's bad. I don't think Blue Beetle is bad by any means at all, but this is a movie that you'll watch and you'll recognize, damn, this is just like every other superhero film that's come out recently, because it just borrows all of the same shit, even down to like identical scenes from other superhero films. But, like I said, I don't think it's horrible by any means. I don't think it's a bad movie. Let's just go ahead and dive into it. I think the best part of the film is actually the family element to it. So, Blue Beetle, the main character, Jaime, he and his family are a very core component to the story. And when they're on screen together, I actually think the movie's at its best. They are fun. There's great chemistry with every member of the family, and they're all really enjoyable on screen. George Lopez actually does a really good job delivering the comedic bits, and make no mistake, this movie is not light on comedic bits at all. Even during the most intense situations, like murder, they're still cracking jokes about it. So this is a film that very much does not take itself seriously, but there is one scene in particular where they did try and be very emotional, and they fucking nailed it. Like, there's a very emotional scene, I'm not going to get into spoilers, but every character around that scene, everyone in that moment, crushed it. And it actually made me mad, because if they had focused on maybe doing something a little different with a superhero movie, making it actually emotional and maybe a little more hard-hitting as opposed to just falling back on the same tired, quirky, quippy, non-stop, light-hearted, joking characters that every superhero movie follows now, I think it would have been much better. Like, instead of just having so many scenes where a character's like, bro, I just took a luxury dump in that toilet, fist bump, like, instead of having every character have all of those moments and have every scene be filled with jokes, if they had instead just really doubled down on being a little more hardcore and having scenes like that one I mentioned, I think this could have been a really great film, or at least a much better one. Especially because they do have elements that would really lend itself well to it. The main villain that Blue Beetle keeps squaring off against is basically just Robot Man when he's fighting, but when he's not fighting, he's a pretty interesting character who has a tragic backstory that I think they really could have expanded upon and fleshed him out and made like a really interesting piece with Blue Beetle and his family and that guy, and I don't want to get into spoilers, but his situation. I think they could have done so much more and made it a lot more unique, as opposed to just unrelenting AI-generated jokes that they just constantly throw in your face every single second on screen. Anyway, the plot is exactly what you've seen in other superhero films before. It is the same kind of recycled plot you're used to, where evil corporation has super secret weapon and it ends up in the hands of the most unexpected person to have it, our main character, who just happened to be in the right place at the right time, and the Scarab, which is a world-destroying weapon, chooses him as the host. Evil corporation's obviously not too thrilled about it. They want it back, so they start threatening his family, trying to track him down, then send out their big bad robot killer guy. And there's a main villain behind the robot killer, and I already forgot her name. I'm not going to lie to you. I know her last name's Cord because that's the name of the company. I think her name was like Vivian Cord or Vicky or some shit. I don't know. But that just goes to show you how forgettable of a character she is, which is a shame because I think the actress is very talented, but she was given actual urinal cakes to work with on this one. Her material is bad. The way that this villain is written is like the way a Saturday morning cartoon would write a quick villain for a single episode. She just says the standard tropey evil shit like sacrifices must be made, and we have to make weapons because weapons make us money, and we like money. And also she's like racist. So the character, she doesn't really have any interesting features about herself. She is actually a caricature of an evil person. And she's not really the one they keep squaring off against. She just happens to show up and order people around like, can you please kill him because I need money? And he has the super secret world-destroying weapon that I'm going to use for money and machines, or weapons. So please, can we kill him now? So I thought she was super lame. Definitely the robot-killing assassin guy was the star on the evil side. And now I would like to give a bit of praise here to the visuals because I actually think this is one of DC's better looking movies in terms of its CGI. DC's become synonymous with dog shit CGI. They have really fumbled when it comes to its visuals over the last 10 or so years. They've had some like garbage CGI in a lot of their movies. This one, though, I think is pretty good looking, aside from a couple of scenes that got a little wonky, but aside from that, I thought all of the visuals were pretty good looking, and I enjoyed the action scenes here. However, there was not many of them. I really would have liked if they explored the suit's ability to create any weapon that the host can dream up. I would have liked if they explored that a bit more, because he basically just makes air blasters. He makes force pushes, basically. Handheld force pushes. So you just blast, 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 blast. And then when they are about to make cool weapons like swords, he's like, no, wait a minute, pump the brakes. That's going to hurt somebody. That could kill someone. No sword, just give me more air blasters. And it's like, ugh, just roll your eyes. It's like, Jesus Christ. But I am happy to say in the trailer, this isn't a spoiler, so it's in the trailer, he does make a giant sword, which ends up being very cool. I just would have liked if they explored that power a bit more with more creativity behind it, as opposed to just making air blasters forever. But yeah, the visuals I thought were definitely an improvement over previous DC movies. Now, I mentioned the family is actually the best part, but there's something I need to mention about the family. It leads to a big tonal inconsistency between Blue Beetle and the family. And let me explain what I mean. And I don't think it's intentional, by the way. So they're very tight-knit. They're very close. Blue Beetle even has like a very tropey anime moment where the bad guy says, your love for your family makes you weak. And he says, no, my love for my family, that's what makes me strong. And it's supposed to be very much they are a tight unit. But the family couldn't be more different from Blue Beetle in how they handle the overall narrative. So Blue Beetle is like fucking Batman, I guess, who is completely opposed to killing. I don't know enough about Blue Beetle as a character in the comics to really opine on that, but there is a scene very early on when he's learning the suit where it's about to kill some of the bad guys that are threatening his family, and he makes a point to say, no killing, I'm not a killer. So then he instead just shock blasts them, gets them with like an air blaster, and his family, however, does not share that same belief. His family kills so many people. George Lopez in particular piles up corpses. He impales a man, literally impales a guy, and he makes a joke about it. His grandmother has a Gatling gun, and she just chops up, peppers 8 different dudes, murdering them in cold blood. And then she makes a joke about it, all while Blue Beetle watches. And even he's like cheering her on, like, wow, you really fucked them up. That's great. And he's smiling and, happy about it. But meanwhile, the entire movie has already solidified him as someone who is totally against killing, but he's absolutely fine watching his family kill. I don't know, that just seemed like a bit of an oversight. Like, at that point, why not just have Blue Beetle okay with killing in the first place? Overall, though, like I said, it's not a bad movie by any means, but it's a movie that follows the same superhero formula you're used to seeing at this point. So, if you like the standard superhero movie, you'll most likely really enjoy Blue Beetle. And like I said, this is one of DC's better looking movies visually. So, plugging Blue Beetle into the Moist Meter, I'm just going to give it a nice 60%. I didn't dislike it, but I am just very exhausted from superhero films that aren't bothering to even try to do things differently and make things a little more unique. When I do think Blue Beetle had the opportunity to, and had the talent to as well. Everyone did a really great job, like in their performance. I think the acting in this movie is very good, and they showed that they can deliver really great emotional beats. So it's just a real shame to see that none of that was really utilized outside of one scene. But anyway, that's about it for the Moist Meter. But I do want to mention that we are still selling tickets to the Moist Esports live watch party on September 8th, 9th, and 10th. Tickets are available at the strazcenter.com website. I'll put a link to it in the description below. Basically, it's a big party, a Moist Fest, where we're going to watch our esports team compete in the World Championship for Apex Legends and hopefully take home the trophy, as well as just make it a nice, fun atmosphere, meet and greet, all that kind of stuff. So if you're interested in attending, it's an in-person event from the 8th to the 10th. Tickets for sale now. Hey. Huge congratulations to you, the viewer, because you're about to witness some history. You will always remember this moment as one of the most unenthusiastic Moist Meters and probably one of the shortest Moist Meters I've ever made. Aquaman 2, in the Lost Kingdom. Or like Aquaman Snooze and The Lost Time, because this is truly a waste of time and it's very difficult to stay awake for this movie. I really don't have many positive things to say about this movie. I actually liked the first Aquaman, shockingly. Like, I went into it not expecting much, but ended up really enjoying the first Aquaman. So I was kind of expecting this one to be fun, though the initial screenings were labeled as disastrous or unreleasable, and everyone was just insulting it, so I stopped having high expectations. But I really didn't expect it to turn out like this. It's not the worst movie I've ever seen. It's not even the worst DC Universe movie I've seen. But it's one of the most boring. It is, I'm not kidding, hard to stay awake for it. I dozed off twice, and one of them was during like this big fight moment, because it's so clear nobody really tried at all. It was clear from like the very first 20 minutes worth of this film's opening. No one's heart was in this film at all. This was a movie that was pumped out just because it was part of the release schedule, so they were obligated to finish it and just shit this one out onto the market. So if no one in it cares, why the fuck am I gonna care? Plus, it doesn't have any real place in the DCU. This is the funeral for the DCU, and man, what a sad wet fart whimper it goes out on. As I understand it, they're doing an entirely new rebooted DCU, and this is the last remnant of the old guard, the ancient ways. And no one's going to remember this movie. Unless, of course, you're trying to remember some of the best sleep you ever got in a movie theater, because watching this is like taking NyQuil. It is visual sleep aid. So let's go ahead and get into it. First and foremost, the narrative is outrageously disjointed. The movie's 2 hours long, but it felt like it needed another hour and a half just to put together a plot that works, that fits, because it feels like it just constantly tried to speedrun things. Arthur, Aquaman, would teleport everywhere he needed to go. There was no real journey or anything. He's just like, I need to go find my brother. And then he's already there, like, beating some ass and freeing his brother. He's like, alright, good. It's like, well, how did you get there? Like, this man just has instant transmission like Goku here. There's just, things happen for the sake of plot convenience. Things just happen. And it's so unfulfilling, and especially because the performances from everyone are so flat. And it's not even the acting. I want to make it clear. I don't even think the acting is bad. It's the dialogue. The dialogue is so AI generated and bland that it makes all of the characters, no matter how hard they try, bland and boring. To give you an example, a truly devastating moment happens in the plot, one that's absolutely going to put tears in the eyes of everyone in the audience watching this. Something bad happens to Aquaman's family, and since this is a movie mainly about Aquaman's family, a lot of times it's spent like a buddy cop film with his brother. It's a movie about his family, and when this scene happens, I shit you not, I think it's five cuts, and what it is they go through all of Aquaman's closest friends and family, and they go, no, 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 like cutting between each one of them just saying no. It's fucking laughable. It is so silly. I really don't know why they would have put that in the final cut, and I think it's just scrambling to have put something out. This movie was apparently a victim of tons and tons of reshoots, and I really think you can feel that. For example, there were the rumors about Amber Heard's role in this film being cut down, and I definitely think that's the case. I don't think this is what the film was originally supposed to be. Since it's a movie about Aquaman's family, you would expect Amber Heard, who played a huge role in the first one, to have a big role in this one. But she doesn't. She's sidelined. They put her on the bench. I think she only has like 5 total scenes or something maybe, and I could probably count the amount of dialogue she has on one hand. She doesn't say or do anything in this film, even though it's all about Aquaman's family, so it's clear there were a lot of reshoots here in order to like get her role less, and then they didn't know how to fill in the blanks, so then they haphazardly threw other things together and probably had to do more reshoots, which led to like even more emotionless moments throughout. The whole thing just feels like a mess. And even visually, I thought this one would probably be good visually, even though DCU's got a reputation for having bad CGI. I thought the first Aquaman had a couple of wonky CGI moments, but overall is one of the better looking DCU movies. This one goes right back into the old ways, and there are some terrible CGI moments. And for some reason, half of the scenes just have the characters standing still. Like, they're not doing things half the time. I don't even know how they can make it look bad. They're just not doing anything, and sometimes it'll still just visually look like shit. It's so weird how this one does everything wrong that the first one did right. Even the villain that I thought was just a surefire slam dunk easy because the villain's so fucking cool, they fumbled. Manta isn't nearly as cool in this movie as he was in the first one. And in fact, Manta, like, they make him look as though it's not even Manta. They give him a storyline that, you know, he wants revenge and all of that, but then they overwrite it with their goofy mumbo jumbo about, like, the ancient evil from back in the day using the Orichalcum, which I will admit is a really cool name because it reminds me of Yu-Gi-Oh! With the seal of Orichalcos. But they should have just stuck with actual Manta being the main villain instead of being this puppet for the greater evil. Manta is so much more interesting than their stupid green wizard fishman. Like, no one cares about that guy, and even still, he doesn't do much. Like, they should have just had it be Manta as the main villain. He's so much cooler, and it would contrast so nicely with the theme of family, since Manta hates Aquaman for killing his father. That would be the perfect contrast to Aquaman's family dynamic and his family journey. And while that's kind of still present, it's executed so poorly because they have this completely disjointed narrative and they keep trying to shoehorn in this ancient evil with all this ancient technology, and somehow Manta has a whole army of people that know how to pilot all of it and use all of it for no reason that they ever explain. It's just such a mess. I'll go ahead and fish a few compliments out for the movie, though. There's a couple of scenes with Aquaman and his brother that I think were enjoyable. Like, just having them shoot the shit sometimes was pretty fun, mainly because Jason Momoa and Patrick Wilson are just kind of charismatic, so when they're interacting with each other, it works. Like, that dynamic I thought was pretty decent, even though, again, all of that is just fucking blasted through super quickly. Like, you don't really see them bond, in my opinion. Like, they just happen to get to a point where all of a sudden they're tight, but they don't really earn that, especially given their history. They just end up there because they needed to for the plot. But when they are just, like, joking back and forth, it's pretty cute. Like, that's, like, it's wholesome. And another nice thing I can say about the movie is there are a few good scenes. Like, their action is pretty enjoyable when it's there, and pretty much every good scene in the film has Manta in it. There are some standout moments, and Manta is the one that leads those. Now, plugging Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom in the Moist Meter, I'm gonna give it a 35%. It's hard to care about a movie when no one who made it seems to care. Like I said, this really seems like something that they just threw together because they had to. They had a contract they had to fulfill, so they did it. There's no real passion behind it. There's no real story they want to tell. Like, there's just really nothing worth seeing in this movie, which is a real shame because, like I said, I like the first one. I thought they did a lot of things right with the first one, and everything they set up there is completely not capitalized on here at all, even slightly. So yeah, that's about it. See ya.